listening to Mornings with Simi on 980 CKNW.
Well, on December 15th, a heartbreaking post was added to the blog called In Their Name. It's titled The Wrongful Death of Natasha Forry, and it starts with these words. Tasha was everything to me. She was my only child, and throughout her life, I was mostly a single parent. We were very close and usually talked every day. I would be the first person she'd call to share exciting news and vice versa. We were inseparable. My beautiful daughter died suddenly at the age of 29. That was written by Natasha Forry. Ann, who is the mother of Natasha Forry. Now, yesterday, I was able to speak with Ann Forry, along with her partner, Darryl Hermary, about what happened, what led up to the sudden death of 29-year-old Natasha. She first went to Lionsgate Hospital on October 2nd to have a cyst on her leg looked at. She was treated. She was sent home with painkillers and told that was the treatment and to go home and recover. She then called her mother a few days later in excruciating pain.
It was Saturday morning. I went, I was out grocery shopping, and I was on the phone with Daryl, and she called. She was just in complete agony and so much pain. And this is the hardest part, because as a parent, you try to do everything for your child, and even though she was 29, I'm still her mother. And she called me in so much pain, and I said, well, you have to go back to the hospital. And she goes, well, I don't know, I don't know why I'm so much pain. And I said, Tash, you have to just go back there. And that's what I would, since she's passed, obviously I've fought with that because I'm like, should I have sent her to a different hospital? Would have been better if she went somewhere else. And but obviously I would have told myself to go back to the same hospital, because you trust the healthcare professionals. And I knew I wasn't going to get to go back in and see her. It's just so weird at Lionsgate. They have this, you can come in for 2 hours, one person at the emergency, but that actual sign at the emergency doesn't apply, or it didn't to the emergency. It was to the main entrance. So I don't know why it was even there. But I knew I wasn't going to get in to see her. So her friend took her to Lionsgate, and she spent many hours there again. Right down, yep. And then, we just text her stuff, and I had confidence. I thought, well, maybe this swollen lymph nodes, painful is part of the deal. They gave her painkillers, and again, now looking back, it's like, well, if your lymph nodes are swollen, why are they swollen? Right. What's going on that and that was something that was never addressed.
Now, Natasha went to Lionsgate several times. She continued having pain. At one point, it was thought she might have COVID. Also, because of COVID, the family couldn't be with her the entire time. Before the last visit to the hospital, she called her mother again in tears.
Oh, I just want to go lie down. And I know now, in retrospect, that had she just laid down, she would have died in her bed, okay? The difference is she died in the hospital. We've talked to the specialist, and yeah, she would have died there in her bed, and then it would have been a whole other thing. But she did call the ambulance, and it took forever in my mind. But again, I just thought, I didn't think it was this. I mean, it sounds terrible, but I'm glad I wasn't so alarmed because I was very calm with her. And then we called her, and she called us, I guess, when she got to the hospital. We were coming over from Vancouver to Lionsgate, and I was crying, a little bit upset, and she was like, "Don't cry, Mom." And that would turn out to be her last words to me.
And Ann Forry then talked about what happened next when her daughter was taken to the ICU.
And so then I kind of stepped out of there, and I didn't even say goodbye to her because, again, I thought they were just putting her upstairs, and I would see her soon. And so I just kind of got out of the way, and then all of a sudden I heard this rumblings about, we're thinking of putting her up to ICU. And that's when everything changed for me, because I was like, I know how serious ICU is. And so then it was just like, they said, just go have tea or something, go up for a couple of hours, and we'll call you once she's settled. And I was like, okay. And then we got the call from one of the ICU doctors.
He called us when we were going out to get coffee, and he talked to us on the speakerphone, and he was basically saying that it checked all the boxes for COVID. And so Ann and I kind of looked at each other. It didn't sound right, didn't feel right. So she said to the doctor, "What about the cyst that she had on the second?"
Yeah, I said, would that have anything to do with it? And he said
no. He said he didn't even know about it. He said he wasn't aware of it, and he would take a look. And he said that definitely would change the direction of treatment that they were going in.
When we come back after a quick break, why the family is now fighting to change wrongful death legislation in this province. That's coming up right after a quick break for the traffic with Caitlin Ozansky. Good morning. Listening to what led up to the tragic death of a 29-year-old woman at Lionsgate Hospital. The family has now filed a complaint with the College of Physicians, but in doing so found out some huge gaps when it comes to wrongful death law in this province.
Well, Ann asked me to take care of that. She asked me to make some phone calls. So I phoned probably 4 or 5, 6 lawyers in the city just to try to find out what we could do. And basically the first question they would ask is, does she have kids? And I would say no. Does she have a mortgage? And I'd say no. And then the whole conversation just changed. There's nothing that they could do. And it was the same story, lawyer after lawyer.
it was the Family Compensation Act, the way it's structured in BC. The only province, even the Yukon, has changed it and updated it, that BC is so far behind that there basically is no compensation. And even if you have children or mortgage, it's capped. I don't even know how much it is. It's really insulting, right? So how did they describe that to you, the old law?
From the mid-1800s is the English law that we adopted as a country in Canada, and it's the changes that have been made are insignificant since then. So we're dealing with a 150-year-old law, right?
Yeah, and so we connected with the Wrongful Death the Reform Society. It's also, is there a deterrent? Are the stakes high enough for any kind of malpractice or negligence? You know, because basically we have the college that they're going to either, we haven't got the results or their findings yet, but they're going to either, anything from maybe if there is negligence found, losing hospital privileges perhaps, to extreme, maybe losing a license. But it just doesn't seem like there's enough accountability. I mean, the long-term trauma that both myself and Darryl, are going to endure through this, it's not acceptable for just the college to do an investigation. And it really is that adding insult to injury, because families deserve better in BC. And the hospital failed Natasha. That is my opinion. And I've lost on her future. I won't see her be married. I won't see grandchildren from her. She's my only child. And, I was thinking, of course, as a parent, well, when I get old, I got someone to take care of me. Like, she's my, my blood. She's going to take care of me. And apparently in some cultures that may be acceptable, where it's traditional, that the families take care of the elders or as they get older. But that's a bit of a human rights issue because, I had that hope as well. But that's not up for consideration with this situation and this law.
Jill, what bothered me when I talked to these lawyers, it became clear to me that if it was better for the doctors in the hospital if she died than if she had lived and if she had been incapacitated in some way, because, that it's only through, her being incapacitated could there be any kind of a lawsuit, could there be any kind of damages. Because she died, there was nothing that could be done.
Yeah, if she was disabled, it'd be worse for them because they'd have to pay out for a year.
That is Ann Forry and Darryl Hermary talking about the death of 29-year-old Natasha. We are going to continue with this story tomorrow at this time. We are going to follow up with the president of the BC Wrongful Death Law Reform Society. They are also encouraging people to reach out to the Attorney General of BC and request reform when it comes to this law. In the meantime, let's find out what is coming up next.